Oh, well, that's a good start. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show, as sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, and this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Sleeping Warrior and Arwin. How are you both doing, gentlemen? Hello? Got nothing. Can you guys hear me? Have you planned this? Are you both deliberately going silent? Is this just a ploy that you've decided to come up with while I was doing my intro? They've gone really super quiet.
Yo.
Did you just disappear while I was doing the intro?
I just said I was going for a quick coffee, be straight back.
Oh, marvellous. I said I'm muting you, I'm going to do my intro. And then I come back, my advert stopped working, and then nobody said hello to me. It's like, oh, great start.
So we're live now?
Yeah, we're live, yeah. Good
right, 12 minutes before you were due to go, Brett, okay.
I did tell you, I did literally say I'm going on mute, I'm going live now.
Right, last thing I heard you say, last thing I said was I'm going for a quick coffee, thinking that you'd have heard me and then you'd, doesn't matter.
No, that's why I said I'm going on mute. I'll pop you on mute and then I don't hear you. Oh well. Not to worry, it's a terrible start to the show. Absolutely appalling. Like I said, the ad didn't work either. I clicked on it and I was like, just stalled. I was like, oh, what's going on here? The advert's not working. Oh, great. Marvellous.
So did Arwin not respond either then?
No, Arwin said nothing. Said literally nothing. He's probably buggered off for a cup of coffee as well.
Yeah. He must have heard me say I'm off for a quick coffee and then gone for one himself, and then you've not heard me.
No. Oh well. Good start. Alan B says link doesn't work. 3 for 3. Wonderful. Wonderful start.
By the way, Nathan, I'm being told that I'm live, but they can't hear me.
What?
Oh, just ignore the people in the chat. I've got monitoring. I knew when you weren't talking and that you can be heard, and so just ignore them.
Yeah, no, I'm not Greg T, you idiot. Stop trying to imagine that you're turning me into a baller just because I don't agree with everything on my side here.
Who are you talking to? Talking to me?
Lunatics.
How dare you?
Greg T in chat, and it's all kinds of people these days. It's just really getting annoying. Just because I actually, like, with Nami, I go into arguments with him, or I actually disagree with things with Anthony in public. It doesn't mean that I'm turning into a baller. Stop being a freaking moron. This is really annoying.
I don't agree with Arwin on some things. Other things I do. I don't agree with Nathan on everything. Some things I don't. But that's because we don't know what we live in, but we realise it's not a ball. So because that is the case, it means that anything goes. Almost anything. Not gravity doesn't go. But that being said, it's still fair game because we don't really know what we do live in, right?
Well, we have a fair
No, we don't know.
idea.
It's the humility to be able to say that. I see it as wonder, you know, saying, I don't know what causes the sky to be blue. That's an amazing position to be in as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, that one definitely. Sky blueness does have some mystery to it. Could be all kinds of things.
I'm just printing off a doc, so bear with me.
Still think it's a funny concept that, especially early on, many flat earthers concluded that the sky must be blue because of the water outside of the firmament. It's kind of a cool idea. Not very easy to confirm.
Also sounds like an old wives' tale. You know, that's what your mother would tell you. I remember Patricia Steer telling me exactly that her mother told her that the reason the sky was blue is because it's just the reflection of the ocean.
A reflection of the ocean? Okay, no, that's not very likely.
No, but that's just what, like
the
I say,
ocean itself is not deep blue at all.
I'm not claiming that's correct in any way. I'm just saying that's the kind of thing your mother would tell you when you're a kid. Why is the sky blue? Oh, it's the ocean reflecting.
Yeah. It could also be just another interesting light effect with high atmosphere. Who knows? Could be something to that.
Hello, Alan.
Morning, boys.
How you doing?
Good afternoon.
Just been down Aldi. Been looking for some R. They didn't have any in stock.
Didn't have any R.
No R.
None.
What about curvature? Did they have any curvature?
They had some in the freezer, but I didn't fancy it.
See, I see Gravity was on sale last week. You could get like buy two and get one free for Gravity, but I've not seen it on this week.
Yeah.
Get yourself some Coriolis insurance as well. Next door to Aldi, there's an insurance broker. Coriolis insurance is very important.
Yeah, but it's not a good time to buy Gravity because you know the price is going to drop, right?
Yeah, it's going to crash.
It's always going down.
Exactly.
You in a better mood today, Arwin?
Don't take the bait, Arwin. Don't take
yesterday.
it. Don't take it, the bait.
No, I am. I am in a pretty good mood. I was in a pretty good mood yesterday until Josh revealed himself to be a pretty disgusting, manipulative liar and a very insincere person about many things.
I think that's the first time I've heard you swear that much.
Really? How? Oh, yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we were off air, weren't we? So. But I really don't like it when, especially when ballers that reveal themselves to be very manipulative start asking questions, and then as soon as I want to answer it, they immediately ask another question. Then I ask if I can please answer it, and then they ask another question. That really freaking pisses me off. So, if I want to answer, then you're gonna let me answer. Otherwise, I will be yelling at you. Unless we're on air. So, that's why I did that.
I do love these calm little moments.
Mike.
Calm little moments before the storm. Hello, Mike. How you doing?
Good morning. Yourself?
Not too bad.
It's not morning here.
Good morning.
What's that?
It's not morning here.
Oh, here it's about 9 a.m. So
Whereabouts are you?
You're
US of A.
You're on the East Coast?
Roughly, yeah. Same time zone as Florida, but not really on the East Coast.
Texas Central.
No, it's East Coast, but just not all the way East Coast. I live in Michigan.
Michigan. The windy. Isn't that the Windy City?
No, that's Chicago, Tony.
Oh yeah, Chicago.
Your geography,
No,
man.
it's the Motor City, Detroit.
Yeah, he lives in the 313. That's true, Mike, yeah?
No, I've actually never been to Detroit.
Oh, you've missed out.
Oh, I
Oh,
don't know.
really? I don't think I have.
I don't think
There's a
you
lot
have.
of empty, rotting houses there.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Isn't it true you can literally buy a house for $1 in Detroit?
I don't know. There's a lot of banks that want to get rid of houses, so.
Yeah, I wouldn't go there.
No, anywhere east of me, I don't want to go. So, Flint is over that way, and yeah, I stay out of that.
So you're an Eastist. You're a West Side.
Yeah, west side of Michigan, near Lake Michigan.
So what's your position on the shape of the Earth then? I might be being ignorant here. You might have already said.
A general consensus of the scientific community.
So what's the most persuasive piece of evidence for you then?
There's not really one, just the amount of evidence.
Do you want to give us the top one or top two?
Like I said yesterday, the North Star, when you're on the equator and you look out, it's on the horizon. But when you go to the North Pole, it's actually 90 degrees, and that works perfectly on a sphere.
Could it be explained in any other way on a flat plane?
Possibly, but none have come up yet.
Okay.
Really?
Hang on. Do we agree that the as the stars get towards the horizon, they slow down?
They slow down.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's only in a if they are in their rough vertical motion.
Well, in any event, they appear to slow down. Do we?
Yeah, but they, like if you're roughly at the North Pole, then the rotation will be around the horizon. It's not gonna slow down.
Hang on, I'm talking to Mike.
Well, I didn't want to get into the North Star stuff. I had a question. You guys don't think scientific models are science, right?
Correct.
Well, they're not real.
For the most part, they're not really science.
No, they're not real.
Pseudoscience.
Okay. So how do you guys feel about engineers? Engineering, the applied sciences.
The fantastic technologists.
Yeah, it's technology,
Okay,
not
so
science.
what about the engineers that put us on the moon and put us into orbit? Those are all engineers using applied sciences.
That's
Well,
not
that's
science. That's not science. That's engineering.
Sorry.
If we went to the moon, which I don't think we did, but the stuff that was created, which may very well have been created and tested by engineers, that's not science.
But you just agreed that it's applied science.
No, that's not science. Science is a study of the natural world. It's a method, right? So saying that producing things is science is not. It's a method.
Right, but engineers
engineers
the
can
scientific
build great
method.
rockets. They can make rockets and they can make them work, and they can make them work under extreme conditions. Even they can specifically test them to
Yeah, what do you
be
think
able to function in a vacuum. That they're supposed to do that doesn't
Yeah, how
mean
do you
that they're
think-
actually going to do that eventually.
Right.
That the technology that they build is actually going to be used to do that.
The technology is not science. The methodology used to isolate the causal relationship with radiation led to the invention of the microwave oven. That doesn't make me a scientist when I use a microwave, and it doesn't make a microwave science. The method used to isolate the cause and effect relationship, that's science.
Right, when they were testing these things, they were using the scientific method.
No.
Well, they may have used the scientific method to develop some of the components of the rockets and things like that, but the actual trip to the moon and things like that is not science. And it's not applied science either.
Well, of
Like,
course
you-
not. I'm talking about the engineering. I'm not saying going to the moon is science.
You could say
I'm
that,
saying it was made possible by science and engineers.
No, it
but
wasn't.
so is using
Presumably,
Number
yes.
one, we don't agree that people have been to the moon. Yeah, that's the first thing. So, I mean, if you've got some marvellous evidence to present here that suggests that we have been to the moon, then great, let's have a look at it first before we just decide to say that we have. But that's not science. That's engineering.
Yeah, going into orbit isn't science either. Just because it seems like, you know, an amazing feat doesn't make it more
But
scientific.
I thought we agreed that engineering is applied science, and they
You're
are
using this word applied science like it makes a difference to the word science. Science is science. Strapping on a different word or a different prefix to the word science won't change the meaning of science.
Yeah, we never agreed that applied science is science either. That's, you just keep asserting it, but we're
Right.
not agreeing to that.
Yeah, it's just the
So
word, the name they give.
So do engineers just build stuff
Yes.
randomly?
Yeah. No. They don't
The goal of
build
engineering is
randomly.
not the same
They
as-
don't
That's
have
absurd.
any
They
method
design-
of testing.
They design.
Sorry, we're not in any
accordance
way
to the
putting any.
specifications given to them of what they need, what it needs to
Right.
function for. They do not have to be in the know if
But how do they know if
that's
that stuff
objective
works?
is actually real. They just
Test it.
do
Owen,
what
Owen,
they're told to do.
Test it. Test it. That's how they know. They test it.
it's testable explanations and predictions.
Engineers are just trying to produce a certain effect, right? Like they have, you know, they want to create an airplane that can fly X amount of distance with X amount of fuel and X amount of time. And so they just test, their tests are all just trial and error toward a specific goal, not to figuring out not to determining the final causes of what's causing the final goal to be possible.
Nonsense.
Yeah, it's usually based on efficiency and structural integrity, that type of stuff. That's their focus usually.
So engineers are not concerned with explaining the fundamental relationship between the components of their machinery. They're just interested in producing a practical effect.
Right, and that's exactly what science does do. It establishes a cause and effect relationship.
Yeah. This is why these things are separate, right? This is why engineering isn't science. This is why we call engineers engineers and scientists scientists. They're two completely different pursuits. One of them is the pursuit of practical solutions to real world problems. The other one is the pursuit of a deeper understanding of the cause and effect relations of the fundamental physical world.
Figuring out those real world problems, don't you think they have a method for doing that?
Yes, trial and error.
What isn't trial and error part of the scientific method? I'm not a scientist.
No.
I'm just a layman. You guys probably know more about a lot of this stuff than me, but I just had a few questions.
Trial and error.
Trust me, they don't. They don't know a lot more than you.
In trial and error, you don't have to have an exact hypothesis. You can just have a goal in mind. Like for instance, the Wright brothers didn't have a theory of aerodynamics that they thought they could just draw up a blueprint of a plane based on some sort of understanding of kinetic molecular theory or something. They just kind of figured out, like, you know, what they thought might be possible based on biomimicry and things like that. And okay, bye. And then they just started testing. They just did a, you know, trial and error tests with different designs in order to figure out something that would work. But they never ended up with some kind of grand theory of aerodynamics or of you know, drag
afterward, basically.
Yeah. So they just had a goal in mind. They said, we want to make an airplane fly, and then they just tested different configurations of materials until they were.
That is literally the scientific method.
No, it isn't.
It's not. It absolutely isn't the scientific method. You are conflating two different things: experimentation and testing. They are very different. An experiment is an expression of a hypothesis, and a hypothesis establishes a cause and effect relationship. So when you produce a hypothesis and then test that hypothesis, the expression of the hypothesis is the experiment. Whereas in technology, they perform tests, not experiments.
Yeah, and also this idea that you have that what were you just saying there, Alan? I've just lost my train of thought.
Yeah, you're probably smoking too many drugs.
No, I don't smoke any drugs. But
the Wright brothers tested for the proposal.
Alan, he doesn't smoke drugs,
but I'm not this far out.
Sorry, I just forgot. My mind blanked. It's just first thing in the morning here. Okay, never mind.
But they were testing the weight of the plane, the weight of the pilot.
Right. Okay,
I
want to respond to that. Okay. The mere act of calculation and measurement is not doing science. Like, that stuff you associate with science because you've seen lots of movies about scientists, and like that seems to be what you think they're doing.
But that's not the answer to the question that we asked.
It's like somebody was asking.
They just guessed.
Somebody was asking in the comment section, like, how could you scientifically measure a piece of wood or something? And it's like, well, you can't. Measuring a piece of wood isn't doing science. It's just not. So people think that all of the peripheral activities that might accompany some sort of scientific experiment themselves are the scientific experiment. But no, the scientific experiment is just testing the hypothesis. That's the only part of it. That's the science part.
You can gather information, you can gain knowledge, but that's not the same thing.
Yeah, well, it's
So
step
you ask
two.
a question.
But that's step two, though, Armin. So you do review of literature that's available on the subject. You know, step two isn't always counted. Some people have a different scientific method that doesn't even include step two. But it makes logical sense that, yeah, you observe a phenomena and then you go out and you see if anybody else has already done tests on it.
Yeah. But engineering is not science, and trial and error is not the scientific method, and measuring the weight of the planes and all that stuff, that doesn't mean it's the scientific method either. The Wright brothers did not use the scientific method to develop the first.
No, they used trial and error, and we know that.
No,
because
they didn't.
Failed attempts. Yeah, they did.
Absolutely not, Tony. They did
Yeah,
not.
they did. Look
use
at all the
trial and
previous
error.
attempts at trying to fly.
No, they didn't.
Yeah,
I read a huge
calculate anything
Hold
because
on,
they didn't
hold on.
know the science at the
Let's
time.
let Alan
Of course they
speak.
used the
Hold on.
science.
It's the
They
first time Alan's
calculated
piped up
that
in a
they
while.
Don't be
Let's-
ridiculous. They didn't know the science. They learned it by
did,
trial
Tony.
and error.
Tony, you know nothing about the subject.
I read a
History of the Wright brothers. The history of the Wright brothers. You're talking out your bottom.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
Well,
I
let's
don't
hear
know
what
that
Alan's got to say.
calculator
Hold on.
horsepower.
Let's hear.
No, I read a huge book about
Hold on,
it.
Nami.
which was
Hold
very
on, Nami. Hold on. Just let Alan say his two pennyworth about how the Wright brothers used science.
All right.
They had to calculate the weight, which was 625 pounds, based on an estimate of the calculator power and thrust that they needed.
That's
Thrust.
The
maths.
engine generated 90 pounds of thrust to achieve the minimum 23 miles per hour speed.
That's maths. It's not science.
They didn't guess.
Sorry, we didn't say they guessed. We said
Tony
they did
did.
not
No, I
use
said they used
science.
trial and error.
No,
That's
they didn't.
trial and
They
error
calculated it.
and mathematics. That's calculating things. Something that
Well,
often
that's not trial and
fails.
error, is it?
Often fails, especially when referencing globes. You have people like
Tony.
Charles who do similar things. They use maths, they make estimations,
Not
then they get
guessing,
it
though, is it?
wrong. They get
Trial
it
and
very
error.
wrong, right? That's what
didn't
trial and
guess.
that's the error part of trial and error. You
They
get
didn't
it?
The
guess, though, did they?
calculated guess, Alan.
It was
So
a
they did
calculated-
all the measurements, they calculated it all out, they built it, and then it didn't fly. That would
Yeah,
be the
most of
error
them didn't
part.
fly.
That's not science, that's trial and error.
So
No.
during this trial and error before they actually got something to fly, don't you think they were taking measurements and before their next flight? Don't you think they made a prediction on what would happen?
No.
So what?
And then if it
That
So
came
what?
true,
The Wright
So
brothers, what they
There's
did
a
was they
difference
started.
between a prediction, which anybody can make. I predict it will rain tomorrow. Does that make it a scientific prediction? No. It just makes it
That
a
wasn't the-
prediction following a
prediction part wasn't
mathematical
the only part.
calculation. So they calculated how much wingspan they needed, and then they trial and errored the hell out of it, right? But that error didn't afford them success through science. That's just trial and error.
Nathan.
Here's the thing. In the end, they're not looking. Their goal isn't to understand what makes the plane work fundamentally. The plane is to make their goal is just to make it work.
Well,
Right.
at first,
they're
at first. At
Yeah,
the-
exactly. But I'm just saying that
the law of aerodynamics, the scientific worked out version, and that was all afterward. That's in the perfection process. Then they actually started to figure out the details.
Well, I'm just saying the difference between engineering and science is really just in their goals.
Right, Alan, let
They-
me have your attention.
they-
Nathan.
I think that the two probably end up, contributing valuable ideas to each other.
Nathan.
But it's just that really what sets them apart is what the fundamental what the goal of the activity itself is.
All right, guys, Alan, can you see my screen?
Yes.
You're not Alan. Alan, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Do you think that this guy was applying any kind of science with regards to calculating anything, or do you think that this was trial and error?
This is not the subject we were talking about.
We were talking about the history of flight and how they tried to
No,
make.
we were
things
talking
work.
about the Wright brothers.
Yeah, we're talking about flight. Do you think that it was based on mathematical calculations on a science that they didn't yet already know? Or do you think it was trial and error based on trying it and seeing how many times they fell to the ground and thought, didn't work? Of course, it's trial and error. It can't be
No,
anything else. They
sorry,
didn't know the
Tony, you're wrong.
science.
Sorry,
They didn't know the science to be able to apply it.
Tony, they did.
No, they didn't.
Tony, they did.
If they did, they would be able to apply
Let's
it
not
and then
go
get
around in
technology and then make
circles.
it work.
What was the science that they knew?
Was that to me?
So
What year was
did
that?
anybody else here assert that the Wright brothers were using science, Alan?
I read a huge book about it, and it said that they weren't even. Basically, it emphasized the fact that they were ignorant of the science, of the known science of fluids, even of their day, and that they didn't really need it. That they just.
What book was that?
What was that?
And what book was that?
I can't remember the title right now.
Exactly. So if you can't remember the title, how can you remember the details?
I'll look it up. Well, because I
Has
just
anybody seen
remember that part of it from when I read it.
Does anybody remember that car that looked like it had a big mushroom head on top of it, and it used to bounce up and down, and the car was trying to
Yeah.
bungee jump itself into the air? That was the kind of trial and error that they were using at the time because they didn't know the science; they were trying to learn it, right?
That was in the first experimental period.
I think the book is
not
just called
experiment.
The Wright Brothers.
No, Arwin. No. They weren't experimenting. They were testing.
Yeah. It's like when you build a billy cart and the wheel falls off the first time, right? You realize that you need to put a stronger support in to keep that particular wheel in place. You know what I mean? That's trial and error. That's not applying science. You're just trying to make something, right? That's what Wright brothers were doing.
No.
Or like somebody had brought up before, the Australian Aborigines using a boomerang, right? They don't necessarily understand what's making the boomerang come back, but they just, somebody obviously threw a strangely shaped piece of wood once and noticed that it had a strange effect, and then they just kept refining the effect.
Correct.
Yep.
So is that science? Is it science?
Yo, I'm here.
Is the Aboriginal Australian development
Hey,
of
good to have you.
the boomerang science, Alan?
Of course it is.
Okay.
So when they found penicillin and the window was open and bacteria flew into the petri dish and then bacteria started to grow. And
No, it didn't flow in through the window, Tony.
Well, that's the story, isn't it?
No, it isn't. Wrong
Go on
again.
then. Correct me where I'm wrong.
It grew on bread that had been left there overnight.
That's not the story I heard. The story I heard was it grew on, let me get it right, a horse's saddle. There was a mould that grew on a horse's saddle. Sounds like we've all got very different origin stories
I heard
for
it
penicillin.
came in through an open window. Right, I'm going to look it up.
It's not really that important to the argument.
Well, I was going to say, do you think somebody learned that by accident, or do you think that somebody researched into it trying to create penicillin?
Yes, but you're discounting all of the Wright brothers' history of building gliders and learning about wings.
Do you think the gliders came before or after the plane?
Before,
Exactly. So how did they get to the glider stage?
by working out lift.
No, by trial and error. That's what
No.
they were trying to do.
No,
No.
Tony.
I just wikid it, and they use the lift equation. They're
yeah.
working it out.
They applied mathematics.
So they knew the mathematics before it was invented, right? They knew that. They knew the science before it was even science. Really?
Yeah, like what would make them scientists is if they had to have, the science part would just be separate. The development of the lift equation based on hypothesis testing, but then the application of that to developing airplanes is no longer in the domain of science, right? So applied science isn't science. Like anything is practically everything that you do is applying science, right? Like if I use a lever, or if I use a water pressure system, like it doesn't matter. Like all these, you could describe all of these things as, because science has some sort of description of it.
Most scientific discoveries are discovered by accident, fluke, or by chance.
What
They
an
are.
idiot.
They are. Most scientific discoveries are found by chance. They don't come as a
Step
result
1,
of
2. Yeah.
And engineering isn't usually referred to as applied science anyways. That's just something you're tacking on. It's not really very meaningful.
Anyway,
real-
let's welcome
real
Mr.
quick.
Gonzalez and Issa.
Hey,
Hello.
what's up, boys? Hey, gentlemen, real quick, I just want to say with the idea of understanding wind currents, like they understood the science of how wind works by using sails for a long time, and I just thought that would be an interesting point. Maybe Alan B can follow up. I'm running around, so forgive me, boys.
They didn't actually understand how winds worked until hundreds and hundreds of years after they developed the sail. I mean,
Right, but that concept is still at play. Am I wrong or no?
No, it is, but that makes it engineering, right? They just trialed and errored it. They figured out that use a sail and you can harness the power of the wind. But
Well,
what was
no,
actually
no. Hold on. It's not just harness the power of the wind. It's the idea that they understood how, like, they understand how to cut a sail so that there is a vacuum created, which is actually what pulls or propels a boat forward when you're going, like, when you're tacking. So you're going back and forth. It's not like if you're going into the wind, you're not going, the wind is obviously not what's propelling you. It's the vacuum created by the shape of the sail.
Yeah, but they didn't know that when they developed the sail.
No, they just guessed.
Yeah, I'll let Alan take it from here. I love you guys. I'll be back if I hear anything.
No, they really didn't have these concepts in place when they developed the sail. Like people just figured out that large flat surfaces with a large surface area to mass ratio could be used to would blow away the wind. And they just figured out that if you attached it to something, it would carry the thing with it.
No, but the way that the sail is cut is so that you can go up. You can go into the wind by cutting the angle against, into the wind, and that's done by the understanding that the wind going over one side is going faster. And
yeah, but you know that particular innovation in sailing that you're even describing is actually very recent.
What's well, I'd like to explain, please.
Okay, hold on for a second. I know it.
Unbelievable. Get the guitar out, Isa.
I never thought I'd hear Alan say that.
It'll be a relief from listening to this. All science is guesswork.
No, that's not what we're saying. No, it's about the goals. So you have to understand, engineering is about you're trying to make you're trying to create a device or a machine or a building or something that will function to a certain specification, right? And that's the goal. When you hey, let me finish. And when you're doing engineering, you just do what it takes to meet those specifications, right? So you don't search for the reason. You might gain some insight into the underlying reason incidentally in your effort to accomplish your goal. But the goal is just make the thing. Look, the goal is to just make the thing function. In science, you're not trying to do any kind of practical. You don't have any practical goal. You're not trying to make a particular machine or structure function in a specific way. What you're trying to do is just to understand the fundamental relationships. So they're just two separate activities. One's about understanding. Science is about generalizations as well. Science
is about understanding the cause in a cause and effect relationship. So the reason we are so interested in science is because you guys assert, for instance, but not exclusively limited to, the stars go towards the horizon because that would be a causal relationship. We're on a sphere. Oh, why am I being talked over? Yeah, shut your mouth, Alan. Yeah? So when people say that there is a causal relationship between the stars moving and... Oh, there's like a mute fest going on. What's going on? Why are you all muting each other? Don't mute Alan, whoever just did that. He's allowed to talk, but just, needs to be put in his place when he talks over the actual point of all this. Science establishes causal relationships, and you ballers want to tell us the cause of stars going in certain directions or spinning is because we're on a spinning ball Earth. So there's a causal relationship that you guys assert, therefore science should be the thing applied. Not only that, we are told at nausea that the whole body of science is behind your assertions. Got a mic posting up garbage that's got wording with science in it, and for some reason he thinks that makes him correct in his assertions, that applied science makes it science. No, science establishes the cause of things. Now, if you want to assert that the cause of the stars is a ball Earth that turns, you need to prove it with science, the thing that establishes causes.
No need to shout.
Well, do you get it, Alan? Cause and effect is what science does.
I was mainly arguing about everybody thinking it's just guesswork and it flew in through the window.
It's meaningless. Scientific discoveries don't happen by accident as much as Anthony wants to assert that that may be the case. It's not. Science requires systematic experimentation, establishing a
Testable
hypothesis
explanations and
and then
predictions.
testing that hypothesis through an experiment. And that is expected to be done repeatedly. So you don't do science by accident.
Tony does.
And all I was doing was copying that because Nummy said that applied science has nothing to do with engineering. So I just had to link
Well, I
that.
didn't say
What?
that. I said applied
No.
science isn't. I said applied science isn't even a thing. It's
Yeah,
just a
I've just-
word that you're using
used
that you
that-
keep insisting
It's
that
a
we've
terminology.
Like back to the
It's a
microwave example. Yeah, science established radiation, the cause and effect relationship, right? Then someone used that information to build a microwave. Doesn't make the microwave science. It doesn't make me a scientist when I microwave something. Because I'm applying science. It's meaningless nonsense that you're using here, Mike. No offence.
Applied science is a discipline of science that applies existing scientific knowledge to develop more practical applications with technology and inventions.
Right, technology and inventions. So they apply something that has been discovered by science, something else, and they apply it. Right, well that doesn't make it science.
What does it make it?
Applying
Engineering.
science. So I can apply mathematics to building a house. That doesn't make a house mathematics, does it?
Well,
What?
there's lots of people in college and university now wondering what they're getting a
Wowee,
bachelor's.
your point's crap, and you've been obliterated, so you're going to point out some next level garbage about who's studying this crap, right? I don't
Well,
care how you are tricky with the word science. Science is a thing, it has a definition. It is a method to establish causes. Therefore, when you dicks assert that there is a causal relationship with a spinning ball Earth and stars moving, we want you to use the method used to establish cause and effect. That would be science. Okay, lads?
No,
Well, you don't have to like it, Alan.
I don't.
Too bad for you. Right, so anybody seen the curvature yet?
Good sound.
Hey guys, can I jump in real quick?
Sure.
This is Travis. So I'm trying to put together some of the photos that I've been taking. I drive a truck for a living, and so I traverse up and down the eastern coast of the U.S. And if I knew that this was going to happen, I would have paid more attention to what I was doing. But I was in Virginia, and one night I was doing my P900 on the moon. And if I can, I don't have any other way of explaining this, but if I'm facing the moon, that's 12 o'clock. Okay. So two nights later, at the same time, I was in Maryland. At the same time of night, 2 nights later, the moon was at 9 o'clock. So 2 nights before, it was let's say due south. 2 nights later, at the same time of night, it was at 9 o'clock. It was east, and that made no sense to me. How could it be such a diametrically opposed angle? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? What I'm trying to paint a picture of?
Yeah. Have you only recently started to observe the moon and what it does, just out of interest?
Well, yeah. I mean, because of flat Earth, I started noticing things, and I'm just like, this doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't it be in the same position 2 nights later? You know what I mean? It's like it's insane. It's like saying that the sun is gonna.
When was it? Because
this was last week, Monday, and then I noticed on Wednesday the same time of night because I was going to get out and photograph the moon. I'm like, what the hell? Why is it rising at a totally different
that's
spot
interesting.
in the sky?
May have some. This is pure speculation, by the way, but may have something to do with the seasonal changes.
But it's so diametric. It's not slight. That's not slight.
No, but hey, sun activity during the seasonal switch seems to have a significant change as well. So
Well, right, but doesn't that then you? I mean, if I were to talk to my high school guys who are making fun of me on Facebook now, and ask them this question, they would simply postulate out their wazoo the possibility of why it would happen. They don't know.
Well, yeah, but the patterns themselves, in terms of where it is at the time you've observed it, there's no shock and awe here because it's cyclical. You know, it's going to do the same thing over and over and over and over again, which is why I asked if you've only just started observing what the moon actually does. I mean, my advice to you is just,
the moon cycle is slower than
over the course of the. Oh, right. Over the course of the next 12 months, just pay more attention to the moon. You know, crick your neck a bit. But yeah, just watch what it does. But yeah, this is something they have down pegged in terms of observation. You know, it's doing the same thing over and over again. So by they, I mean the heliocentric believers have got what the moon does, and the stars for that matter, absolutely pegged in terms of their cyclical nature and how they move in the sky. It's known, well and truly known. So to pick out something like the moon and where it is a couple of days later, especially as the seasons have just changed, you know, when it's moving, you know, there's a whole bunch of things, but you've just got to start to incorporate it into your life. Start to understand how the sun and moon are actually moving above you.
No, I get it, and I'm willing to think outside the box on that. I'm just really, shocked at the, like I said, the stark contrast of a 45-degree angle. Like I would imagine, I could see maybe a couple of degrees, but 45, that's just in my mind crazy. One other thing that I want to bring up is the same night last Wednesday, or the Wednesday morning, the next morning I got up, the moon was still up, 7 o'clock in the morning, and it was at 180 degrees from the sun, but it was waning. So you could look up at the moon and you could see that the right side of the moon was starting to diminish. But if I turned 180 degrees, the sun is directly in my face. I have this on film and I'm just trying to figure out how to present it, but that's impossible that the moon would be waning in the full light of the sun, according to the heliocentric model. No?
Waning.
Silence.
Does that make sense? Am I not clear?
Anybody?
Yeah, that is kind of odd.
I mean, if I knew how to, I mean, I'm not at a place where I've got high speed, so I can't show you the video, but I've got it. I mean, it's just like I'm facing the sun, I'm facing the moon. I do 180 degree with my camera right into the sun. I'm on a tripod, so I'm all I'm doing is rotating the camera.
Hey, sir.
Yeah, they say it's because of the distance. They say it's because you're so far away that it's going to appear to look like it would like because of the sun's distance in proportion to the moon, or the Earth and the moon. It's the idea that it's that the distance allows for it. Now it's just a matter of, do you think, and this is why they postulate 93 million, never mind the, and all that, because it's just, that's why it would work. That's how it would work. The distance can make it work though.
But it's supposed to be waning when the moon is actually relatively close to the sun.
And at an angle.
I should look. I'd love to see the footage, but I've heard some of these things explained away by the distances. That's just what they say. It's whether or not you accept it or not. It's up to you.
Right, but the distance is so great that you have no angular opportunity for the moon to be diminishing. You would have to have the sun and the moon at a particular angle. It can't be full on. You just can't do it.
Well, that's
what you're saying is that the moon was kind of far off the sun, yet it was waning, and that is odd because it's not supposed to do that. Really, it's only supposed to be waning when it's relatively close to the sun, angular-wise.
Can you say hello to our new guest? We've got Elms. How you doing, my friend? Good to have you.
Hi. Yeah, hi. Yeah, I've been watching the show for a little while, and I thought I'd give it a little join and give my point of view,
Oh, very nice to have you. Thanks for joining.
That's no problem. Do you want me to go on about what I was going to say? Okay. Basically, I was just wondering about the flat Earth. If you were launching a rocket and the Earth is orbiting the sun and it's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. If you launch your rocket out of the Earth, wouldn't you have to launch out in a certain direction, or wouldn't you have to re-enter in a certain direction? Because if the Earth is spinning in one direction, if you try to re-enter with the Earth spinning towards you, it would be like 1,000 mile an hour winds coming towards you, would it not?
Well, that's what they say, that the friction will make it burn up, so it has to re-enter in a specific speed, angle, that stuff. But yeah,
Oh, yeah, I just think, yeah, I'm not too sure if they're being too kind of truthful about all of that type of stuff.
No, you think so?
Yeah, that's just what I think.
But
Anyway.
that's just one thing. Like, I haven't ever actually seen any footage of a rocket or even a space shuttle actually re-entering. You see him land. You don't actually see, or even if it's one, I wonder if that is even real. But you only see the rockets actually exit in that arc. You get to see the rocket launches, and then they go far away, and then they go horizontal, and then
they say that because they're saying that they need to get horizontal speed just so that they can kind of get into orbit at 17,000 miles an hour. But it's just all like nonsense, because you get up into the air into a certain bit and it's all CGI and you just don't see anything else again. And then it just pops up with all this information on screen and numbers, and all of a sudden, look, they're in space. You know? But wouldn't you want to video that and have a video of just us going straight out?
They switched to the CGI.
Wouldn't you want to have a video of that? I mean, if you're going out into space, wouldn't you want to have a video of that just going straight out into space? And they always say they lose communication of it, but then you can communicate with the moon 50 years ago. You know what I mean? Direct to the moon, no delay. But then all of a sudden now, your rocket goes up about, 30, 40 miles, and then it all cuts out.
No, they should, if they want to have some credibility, and obviously they don't, they should actually have the camera on the rocket view, to which they switch later on after the launch. They should have that on from the start.
Agreed.
Non-stop, and they never do. They only turn it on afterward, when it's already up there.
Yeah, they don't use the cameras to prove to us anything. The engineers use them to look at what's happening to the rocket. There's a use for the cameras, and it's not for us to look at it and say, oh, it's fake, it's real. They actually use the cameras to look at how the rocket's doing, and if something happens and it crashes, they look back at it frame by frame to figure out what happened.
Right.
Stop talking sense, Mike.
No.
Yeah, I know. I should just get out of here.
No, but that's nonsense.
There's
There's no reason. There's no reason for them. There's no reason for them to show us that and not turn it on the whole way from the start.
They don't need to.
No, they don't. No, they do need to. It's very easy. It's very easy to do. There's no reason not to do it.
1% of the world on the internet who thinks the Earth is flat. They don't need to prove them anything.
No, they do.
No.
There's a lot of questions, and they don't answer
If you have questions, you can go to college and learn.
Oh yeah, no, you're not gonna get answers. You're just gonna get all kinds of presuppositional arguments and maths thrown at you. And
see, they don't trust anything, Mike.
Consensus. That's what you
don't
get.
trust anything.
Why do we have ice poles on a flat Earth?
Who
I've
knows?
always wondered.
Who cares?
What? Well, it's part of the world. I just wonder how do ice poles...
Antarctica is said to be a land-based continent, and the North Pole is an ocean that freezes over in the winter and then thaws out in the summer.
But why is it cold? Why is it colder there?
There's less sunlight.
Why is there less sunlight?
So
Is it further away?
the sun is at a steeper angle from the surface.
The sun is never at a 90 degrees on the pole, right?
Of course
You
not.
can't ever be on the pole and look up and see the sun. Like, there is no high noon at the poles, right?
Yeah.
How do you know?
High noon at 45
Hold on,
degrees.
hold on. How do you know that?
Here we go. Have you been? Did you buy a ticket?
I'm sorry.
Can't prove it.
Sorry, is that an unreasonable thing to say, that we don't just take
It's just a
assertions
get-out
as
every
an
time,
acceptance
Lee.
that this actually happens?
It is something we've observed for millennia.
When have
It's
you
not
observed
something-
it? Who has observed it? Show me this.
Human beings.
It has
Show
not been
me.
observed for millennia. They didn't. They're not. No one has claimed that they even made it to any of the poles until the last 150 years. So not millennia. If it's even true that people have been to the poles, I'm just saying though, you're totally off in your timeline.
Years and years.
Okay, so it should be dead easy. Let's see. Somebody on their back seeing Polaris above them at the North Pole. Let's see it.
But it's not even relevant. It's still
yeah, it is.
It's all a presuppositional argument that the sun angle and the star angles actually matters to the physical nature of the Earth. It doesn't. It's just the globe of the heavens. It's just these intangible phenomena out there.
Yeah, I totally agree with you,
There's a
Owen.
fluctuation. There's a pattern in there. Sun is at its highest at the equator, and it's at its lowest at the anti-equators. And that's just how it works. It's like a cycle.
I don't disagree, but by the same token, I often hear people assert that Polaris is directly above you at the North Pole. And every time I ask, well, show me, I get, well, people just know.
No, but yeah, I can go with it.
That's lovely.
I've seen footage of people in Norway basically showing that kind of stuff, that it is very close to almost above you. But yeah, actually at the North Pole, then no.
I've been pretty far north, up in Alaska, where the sun is out till 1 o'clock in the morning in the summer, and yeah, you do see Polaris apparently getting closer to directly above you. So it seems that it's in all probability the place they call the North Pole does have Polaris somewhat directly above it. But you're right. I don't know anyone who's seen it for themselves, but it seems that it follows with, I've observed it at close to the equator at 45 degrees latitude, roughly where I live, and then I think up closer to 60 degrees latitude or 60
and
over that. And
longitude and latitude, that works on a spherical.
It works on everything.
It works on both.
Does it?
Yeah,
Have
it
you
works
guys
on
taken-
whatever presumptuous model you're going to use.
Just an
Have you guys
arbitrary.
taken like ninth grade geometry?
It's an
Like
arbitrary.
spherical
Are we going
geometry?
to argue triangulation again? We did that
No,
yesterday.
spherical geometry.
Oh, so it's
Arbitrary-
presuppositional geometry. That's
An
interesting.
arbitrary.
No, I'm
Yeah,
when I
presuppositional
talk about
geometry.
an Earth, we
The
could
geometry
draw
that
a
dictates
sphere.
you're on a sphere, right? The one that says you must be on a sphere,
I'm
it
not-
can only be a
I'm
sphere,
not
that
saying-
geometry?
I'm not saying this proves anything, guys. I'm talking about spherical geometry. That's it.
Yeah, that's not presuppositional at all, right?
It's-
How? What am I presupposing?
No,
That you're on a
sphere.
sphere, it's called geometry. So automatically, just by the very nature of that study,
Spherical-
you're already on a
spherical
sphere, mate.
geometry.
That's what a presupposition is.
So you can't study spherical geometry without discussing the
You can
Earth.
study whatever you like, but if you're going to assert at the end of learning spherical geometry it proves you're on a sphere, then
No,
you're going
I'm
to have a bit of a
talking about
problem.
longitude and latitude. and how
Yeah,
it works on a
longitude
sphere.
and latitude don't prove a sphere.
I'm not proving anything. I'm talking about geometry. What is?
I don't think they understand what geometry is, Mike. You best explain it.
Longitude lines and latitude lines just represent the lines of two separate coordinate axes. You could apply it to a rectilinear or a spherical system. And the mistake you're making is that you're imagining that these things are like real things, that the latitude lines exist in nature or something, where they're just an arbitrary concept.
We can use them to save people and to pinpoint exact spots on the Earth perfectly.
Yeah,
That's
because it's a
real
coordinate.
world application.
It's
No,
because it's a
Okay, well then-
coordinate system.
Sorry, you cannot use a latitude line to save anybody. That's the stupidest thing you've said so far.
Okay.
A latitude line is not going to save
If
anybody.
somebody's stranded and you have to make a flight path, are you going to use longitude and latitude?
No.
Don't do that in the southern hemisphere because they don't track any flights down there.
No,
Good luck with that.
They don't use longitude and latitude to describe headings in flights. They use headings. It's different system.
Longitude, latitude just is a coordinate system. That's what it is. And that's all it is.
But they don't. I'm just saying that incidentally, they don't use it for what you're claiming. What you just claimed they use it for. I mean, the system that they describe flight paths in doesn't refer to longitude and latitude. They use headings. It's a completely different system because the latitude longitude system is actually a clunky and outmoded system for describing paths.
Within a circle, do you guys know what a great circle is? And also a small circle?
A great circle is a circle that will bisect a sphere.
No, it goes through the center of a sphere.
Yeah, it will bisect the sphere. That means cut it in half. So if it's not going through it's not the center, it's a center. You could bisect it in an infinite number of different angles, and a great circle is any one of those angles.
Isn't that used for the shortest distance in flights, Mike? The great circle route in navigation and sailing and aviation.
Yeah, none of this proves that it's a globe. I mean, the fact that they apply these arbitrary constructs to their they apply arbitrary constructs to other arbitrary constructs.
But it's a system for devising the shortest route in three-dimensional space. Correct,
So
Mike?
what? So?
Works perfectly well on a flat map.
No, it doesn't.
Pull out those great. You know what? Take those. No,
Pull
yeah.
out numpty.
If you flatten,
Pull out your flat map. Let's try it on that. Get your flat map out. Where's your flat map? Get your map out. We'll try it.
Well, you could use, if you look at the maps that the FAA uses to determine their flight paths, right? They use a flat map, and the great circle routes look like straight lines except for the fact that they often will change their flight paths to follow winds. But apart from that,
a two-dimensional map is not the same as a straight line on a three-dimensional globe.
Exactly.
They're not doing it on a globe. Sorry, Alan. Are they plotting it out on a sphere then?
Yes. That's
Sorry,
what
he's
he's talking
just
about.
explained to you that they plot it out on a flat map, and now you're telling me that that's different if you plot it out a sphere. Find me a reference where they're doing that.
Yeah, they plot it out on a flat map, and then they apply it to a sphere. Actually, no, they don't even apply it to a sphere, except for when they're showing you propaganda about how it's a sphere, because they have no need for applying it to a sphere in practical terms in order to coordinate their flights. No, they don't use They do not use.
Why do you think flight paths arc?
Sorry, no. Let's not have a presupposition here. Where do they use a globe, Alan? Show me.
Would you want me to explain great circle?
No.
Routes?
Are you deaf and stupid? Show me an example
me,
of these people
the
plotting
ruddy
out
nose.
flight routes on a globe.
Yes, of course they do.
Show me.
Do you want a link?
Yes, please.
The FAA does not use a globe system
Hold
to
on.
There you go.
coordinate their flights.
You're wrong. Wrong again, numpty.
This is flat. This is a flat screen image. What the hell are you talking about? This is not
Read it, you
spherical.
buffoon.
It's being, for a start, it's being presented
Read
in
it, you
cartoon
buffoon.
format on a web page. Hold
Scroll
on.
down halfway.
Hold on, Alan.
See what's there? That's actually a flat map. See?
Nothing
This is
spherical on this page.
nonsensical.
There's lots of cartoons.
Read it, you buffoon.
Sorry, I asked you to show me somebody plotting a flight route on a sphere, and you've given me a link to a load of cartoons.
Read it, you buffoon.
Are you deaf?
No,
Show me somebody plotting a route on a globe.
Read it.
I don't need to read anything when I'm using my eyes to watch someone plotting a route on a sphere. Are you deaf? Are you actually deaf?
I'm deaf to stupidity, apparently.
You are clearly stupid, Alan, because you just presented me with cartoons because you either didn't understand what I said or are deaf. So, I'll say it again. Present me with your assertion, which is that people plot flight routes on spheres.
Just have.
No, you've shown me a cartoon on a two-dimensional web page. Well, what are you waiting for, you retard? Get on with it!
Just read it, you
No!
buffoon.
What part of I don't need to read anything? You are deaf. It'll borderline stupid shortly, right? I have asked you to show me somebody plotting a flight route on a sphere.
Have.
No,
Read it, you
no,
cretin.
you're telling me I need to read the text under a cartoon. I want to see someone plotting a flight route on a globe. Show me it. Have you got it, you stupid idiot? Or are you going to concede that you've presented garbage to back your stupid assertion?
Read it.
I don't need to read anything. I am asking you to show me somebody plotting a flight route on a sphere. Do you have that, Alan?
I have.
Alan, shut the hell up and do it, or just shut up.
Arwin, button it us. I'll give you a bunch of 5s.
No, don't threaten other panel members just because
not
you're a
a teacher.
retard and don't understand the words coming out of my mouth.
This article is propaganda. It's globe propaganda.
Yeah, funny, isn't it?
You're idiots.
No, you're an idiot.
So, are we going to retract your statement that people plot flight routes on spheres, Alan?
That's a stutter. That's a stutter. Flot, flip, 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 flip.
Are
flot.
you going to retract your statement that people plot flight routes on spheres or not?
No.
Why not? You haven't shown it.
I've shown it. You refuse to read
You have
it.
shown me a cartoon.
You're a Luddite.
No, I've shown it to the audience. There was no people in it. There was no plotting being done. There was just cartoons.
Idiot.
Are you a retard? Do you understand what plotting means? Do you understand what people are? Do you understand what a sphere is? You
there's a slight
stupid
plot.
idiot. Answer me, you idiot. Do you understand what those 3 things are? People, plotting, and spheres.
Read it, you buffoon.
Do you understand me, you complete retard? Answer me or I'll kick you out for being a complete idiot.
Kick me out then.
I will, you complete waste of space. Don't assert nonsense that you can't back.
I think some people are just professional trolls. I do think some people are just sitting there, just professional, sitting there all day, just trolling everybody.
Well, Alan definitely is, and he was supposed to be a comedian, but he's getting more trollish every day. It's just really annoying. And the article, it really does not show anything. It's another conceptual description of how things are supposed to be, but that's just a telltale story. It doesn't prove anything. I've read it.
Yeah, it's just describing how they translate one arbitrary system of representation to another, right? It's just a explanation of how they can impose the spherical geometry on the flight routes. It has nothing to do with how they plan flight routes or any of the practical considerations given to actual flying.
Yeah, because all organizations that actually involve with some kind of travel or distances or all that stuff, they all use flat maps, all of them, always. Nobody uses a globe. The only thing that uses a globe is media to indoctrinate you with. The news, science fiction movies.
Propaganda.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's interesting that if you actually look more deeply into it, right? Like he's just giving us some geography article that, isn't really of much consequence to anyone who's actually involved in planning flight routes or who wishes to possibly plan a flight route. But if you actually look at the information given on the website of the FAA, the Federal Administration of Aviation in the United States, which is the agency that sets the standards for the entire world in terms of flight procedures and practices, they will, their website will verify the fact that they do not ever use any kind of globe or sphere model in planning flight routes at any step of the process.
Do you have that to hand? We'll do a quick comparison. Got Glenn in the chat saying, absolutely outrageous on account of the fact that I haven't accepted what Alan has shown. So if we can just do a quick comparison.
Comparison of what?
You just said there's a
yeah.
website that would demonstrate your side of the position, basically.
Oh, the FAA?
Yeah, you can bring it up.
Okay, yeah. Well, there's it's some specific stuff. I don't know if I have it immediately on hand. I have read it before, but I'll see if I can pick it up here. It's one of these things where there's just so much information on this site. Not always easy to immediately find something. Interesting. Okay, I'm almost.
You want it?
I'm almost gonna. I've almost found it here, I think.
Hey, when did Ranty join? Hey, Ranty.
Hi, all right. I joined about 15 minutes ago.
Not bad. I woke my kid up shouting at Ellen. So there might be some banging now because I've woken her up shouting. Oh well.
He's a troll.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because I kind of liked him in a way. He's kind of funny sometimes.
Hey, Anthony, what are you presenting? Oh.
I didn't realize I was. I'm reading something.
Okay, I've almost found it here. I'm close. It's here.
Still very quiet today.
Yeah, it's getting really quiet. Alan kind of killed the mood there. Any of the new guys in here? Anything to share? Like Elms G, who's that?
Guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Is my mic loud enough or?
Yeah,
Perfect.
plenty.
Okay, fair enough. Do you know Wolfie? Have you seen any of his videos?
Yep.
So now that we're talking about, you know, planning airline, like flight plans and all that.
Yeah,
So he's an airline pilot, right? And he's made plenty of challenges to anyone who's a flat earther who could make an air like a flight plan, but nobody has really responded.
That's nice.
Yeah, right. I mean, shouldn't you take it up with him?
No. Does he
I
want to
don't
join?
think we
and
have
present?
any pilots among the flat
Welcome
earthers
to
currently.
join and present it.
Yes. So you don't have any pilots, but you claim to know everything about flight plans and such, right?
Well, you can actually backtrack that because they're registered. So
Yeah, but I mean, why not engage with somebody who actually flies airplanes and know what they're talking about?
well, because registered data of a wide variety of people and registers tend to be a little bit more reliable than a singular person and his opinions.
Sure, to a certain extent, but I mean, if you're
Yeah.
going to debate somebody about flight plans when none of us really know, then why not talk to somebody who's an expert, right?
No, but you can know because you can backtrack the
Welcome
registered
to
data.
join. The link is public, right? If Wolfie wants to join and tell us about flight paths, he can.
Yeah, I don't really know if he's available right now, but I mean, I can post a link in the chat if you want. It's just, isn't it weird that like there's no flat Earth pilots anywhere who could answer that challenge?
Yeah, that's not true.
Yeah, but why does nobody take it up then?
They did take it up and they got grounded, and their professional career as a pilot was ruined.
Yeah, but I mean, just take it up with specifically with Wolfie on the video.
Well, that's what we're here for. There are people in the flat Earth
Yeah,
that are
you're not
pilots that have been
pilots, right?
grounded and ruined. We're here because of them. That we are the voice for them. Effectively, they don't want to speak out for obvious reasons.
So what? So your argument is that nobody's gonna like engage in a YouTube video because they're afraid they'll lose their jobs?
Nobody that's in the profession. No.
Okay, that's a pretty poor excuse, isn't it?
No,
Hold on, are you
because
su-
we
hold
have
on,
a
are you
we have a
sure?
case example of somebody that spoke out and got grounded, and a professional career was ruined.
Hold on. How are you sure that every flat earther, that every air pilot isn't a flat earther secretly?
Yeah, I think they all are. I don't know how Wolfie can be.
And then my question would be, like, can Wolfie get their job back?
No, I don't know the exact case of that story. I mean, I don't know which format it was, or if it was very public or whatever, or I haven't heard about that. But I mean, you should be able to like engage in a conversation, right?
Right. But you sound pretty sure that there's no flat Earth pilots, right?
No, I'm just saying it's funny that nobody has responded. I mean, there's thousands of people who openly believe in flat
People
Earth.
have responded, dude. They've been grounded, and their professional career is essentially over.
Not responded to the video I'm talking about, right? Not responded to Wolfie specifically.
Yeah, you're not.
Can Wolfie get their job back?
I have no clue about anybody who's
Exactly. Who the fuck is Wolfie?
Oh,
I'll show you the videos.
Pardon me.
He makes a lot of like very high quality anti-flat Earth videos with a lot of.
I make great steak.
What?
I make great hamburgers too. You know, hamburgers are a hoax. Think about it.
I'm not sure what your point is, but
I'm saying hamburgers are a hoax. Prove me wrong. What?
So is
that's
your
not exactly the same thing, is it?
Hello, Mark.
Hey, Mark. How you doing?
He's made several very interesting experiments, like measuring certain things at
sorry,
different
Mark, you
altitudes
took your
and
time.
latitudes and stuff. So I'm sure you've seen it.
Sorry. So is your argument that because not enough people have taken Wolfie up on his challenge, that in some way proves that the Earth is a sphere?
No, my argument is it's pretty pressing that you're trying to like convince us that you can't make, or that all flight plans are like based on a flat Earth, or it can't be made on a round Earth, and he has a specific challenge in that regard, and nobody's taking up on him.
Yeah, and we just gave you the reason why. Why
Yeah,
don't
well,
you
that's kind of
actually
a cop
respond
out,
to
isn't
that? Why don't you respond to that? Why do you keep
Look in this.
red
Look in the
herring
content.
us?
I just posted the fact that in the FAA's aircraft dynamic model that they assume a flat Earth. The observant reader will notice that the aircraft equations of motion were calculated assuming a flat Earth. That here we assume the development frame was the northeast down frame.
What
This
page?
implies necessarily that Earth rotation and the variation of the gravity vector with position over the Earth were ignored in developing the aircraft equations of motion. How about that?
Yeah, but you'd have to know the specific of why that is. I mean, I'm sure anybody who works with that.
Well, without knowing the specific of why it is, we know that they developed the aircraft equations of motion assuming a flat and stationary Earth. So what that means is that the flight planning procedures are created under the assumption of a flat and stationary Earth, and that's how it works.
I'm not sure that's
What page?
exactly
Sorry, I just want to get this. Hold on. I just want to get this in front of the audience. What page were you on?
I've linked it.
Yeah,
you
but
can
what
read
page?
it, and that's
What page?
page 62.
But you see
Wait,
the point.
I think that might have been the wrong page. No, that is the right page.
All right, but I think I'm gonna make a point on this. Anyway. You're taking like a single piece out of context
No,
And
read the
there's
whole
several
thing.
hundred sites, and we don't know. We couldn't determine, or like we couldn't exactly know what this means.
I've read the entire document.
What?
I have
You've
read.
read the
I'm not going to
entire
read the entire
document.
document right now, but if I'm telling you that I just have picked a very, relevant and appropriate segment.
It's not conclusive though, because there might be some part of equations.
I'm not saying it proves a flat Earth. I'm just saying that what our argument was about was what model does the Federal Administration of Aviation use to plan flights, and it is they assume a flat and stationary plane in their aircraft, in their the aircraft equations of motion and how it's calculated. That's a fact.
Yeah, but what does that mean? Do you understand what
That
that means?
means that they use a flat map
Yeah.
and they imagine that the Earth is not, that it's stationary, i.e. not turning, rotating to the east at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. So they just imagine it's flat and not moving.
Yeah, but you still have to know the context. You still have to know if they're using a certain math for it, or if it's just for a part of the planning or whatever, right?
Assuming a flat Earth, right? So they use a vector system that doesn't presuppose sphericity. That doesn't presuppose that the plane is moving over the surface of a sphere. They imagine that it's a flat plane. That's what we're talking about in terms of the underlying mathematics, right? When they say that they're assuming a flat Earth, that's what they mean. That's in reference to the mathematical assumptions that they're using.
Yeah, but again, you say the mathematical assumptions, but again, this is several hundred pages of formulas and maths that I couldn't decipher it, and I'm sure you can't either, right?
No, I could. I don't see why I couldn't decipher it. What do you mean? It's not really very complicated.
I mean, could you read all these pages and like understand all the equations and all that shit?
Yeah,
I spent time on it. I could, but the point is that I don't have. Not all of these equations are relevant to understanding what the point that I'm making here about it. I mean, the equations are explaining to you how to practically apply the model that they're describing, but they're also describing their model in simple terms, which is to say that it assumes a flat and stationary Earth.
Again, I haven't even read that part. I couldn't find it, but I'm sure there's several other places in this document, right, where they assume a spirit. Oh, what's the word for it?
Nice assumption there. Can you actually show that part?
No, because I haven't read it, and neither have you. So
what are you discussing then?
Well, I have read it, and it doesn't say that. So okay.
Okay, sure. My point is that it's pretty easy.
I just came up with this document, quoted, but now you're claiming that I haven't read it.
No, okay.
Why are you assuming I haven't read it? I mean, I had it on hand. I just had to dig it up.
So you're seriously saying you've read like almost 250 pages of equations that you couldn't decipher or understand?
No, I didn't read. There's no need for me to read all the equations, right? If I wanted to use the equations because I was actually planning on making doing a specific task with this model, then I would need the equations. But the equations, you don't have to read the equations are just there for reference in case you were actually wanting to use the model as a practical application. But in any case, they describe how the model works in verbally in words, right? And you can still understand that without having to actually bother yourself with plugging numbers into all the equations. But could I do that? Yeah, I could. I could do it. It's not difficult actually, because all these little symbols and letters just represent, they're just placeholders for information that you could just plug in there, and then it's just, multiplication and division for the most part.
Not exactly. I mean, if you wanted to understand this entire thing, you'd have to go to school for it for several years.
Oh, really? You would know. Did you actually read it?
I'm just skimming through it now, and I can see that it's pretty difficult to understand in its entirety, right?
Really not that.
It is for you, apparently. So can you find the word sphere there? In there?
Again, I haven't looked through it. If you gave me like a few days to look through it, I might be able to count it exact point. I haven't even seen the point you're talking about.
What's your claim?
I put it in the side there.
What's
my claim? Can I explain what my claim is or what my point is?
Yeah, you said soundly. And your
Sounds-
claim was an argument from silence
No,
fallacy.
Wolfie. He actually
Yeah,
wrote
so
Oh, I'm sorry, Wolfie, that clown. Your claim
Who
was
is-
an
who is
argument
this?
from
Is this,
silence fallacy.
who is this?
It's John.
John Quantum Eraser? Or?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Oh no. Okay, fair enough.
Oh no, yeah, you got it. You're finished.
Fair enough.
Argument from silence fallacy.
Give me a
Hey,
fallacy.
Nathan,
Come on.
Hey Nathan,
Give me a fallacy.
can you share my screen?
Sure.
Hold on a second. Tell me when you see it.
Yeah.
Do we have to go through this?
Yeah, this is an FAA document. You seeing this?
Mm-hmm.
You see this? What does this say?
Read it for me.
Range and bearing method. Diagram illustrates simplified method. Flat Earth.
Uh-huh.
Right? Flat Earth. Why are they talking about a flat Earth?
So your point is they're so stupid that even though they believe that the Earth is round, they're going to write flat because somebody like you is going to pick it up and then
I
prove
don't care
somehow
what they
that-
believe.
That's
I don't
quite a
care what they-
conspiracy theory there.
Look at that flat Earth. Let's look at it some more. Let's see. Oh, range and
You
range
know what's most
method.
surprising about this whole flat Earth thing?
Flat Earth.
So your conspiracy theory is that they specifically mention flat Earth in there to confuse flat earthers that happen
more.
to stumble upon the article. That's
No.
interesting.
That's not
Flat
what.
Earth. Here,
Then why do they mention it?
No, the problem
I
is
have
that-
no idea. I don't know the math behind it. I don't know why
Here's
they
the-
would mention it.
Here's the problem. If you didn't assume a flat Earth, you wouldn't be able to make flight paths that would work because the Earth isn't a sphere. So if you assume
Something you're claiming, right? As I said, talk to somebody who's an airplane pilot.
We don't have to talk to anybody. We're looking at it right now. I'll put this in the side
We're
chat.
looking at it, but you still don't understand it, right?
Copy. And you
It
do.
says it in black and white. What are you talking about? It says FAA, Federal
Just give me-
Aviation
just give me 2
Administration.
seconds.
These are the
Hey,
guys,
Nathan.
right? These are the guys that deal with this stuff, right? Just for comparison, we'll just bring up what Al brought up, GIS geography with Twitter links. So that's what we got from him. Now we've got stuff that's literally saying you've got to do this stuff on a flat plane, and you're denying it from the FAA. Really?
No, that's not what.
Hey, Nathan, let me give you the page numbers for that document so
Can I
everyone
make my
can see
point?
it. Just 1 second.
Hilarious.
Page 32, page 33, and page 36. And I put that document in the side chat. It's this document right here.
Yeah, I'd also like to mention that they don't claim to believe that the Earth is a globe in these documents. So your assumption that they believe that is your assumption. I think that they.
You think it's an assumption?
Yeah, it certainly is, because I think that this particular agency this particular administration is absolutely required of them to actually understand the true shape of the Earth. So if there was one government agency that truly understood the shape of the Earth, it's probably going to be the FAA, because they have to actually apply it, right?
Yeah. Well, and you think that
you actually arrive where they're supposed to go, and so obviously they know the Earth is flat and they're keeping it a secret.
So we can stop.
keeping it a secret, right? Why would they just write out flat Earth?
What?
If they were keeping something a secret, why would they openly state it as it meaning that was what they meant, right?
You're so brainwashed that it doesn't even matter at this point, right? Everything, as long as Wikipedia tells you it's a globe and Neil deGrasse Tyson tells you it's a globe, then even when you go to the FAA website and you can see that all the flight planning parameters and models are based on a flat Earth, you still think it's completely, whenever it actually matters, when it matters to, engineering a large scale bridge or aqueduct or road or something like that, then they treat the Earth as flat, or when they're planning flight routes, they treat the Earth as flat. But
that's not true, right?
Yeah, it is true.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
Because as I said,
nah. What's your scientific evidence for your
Can I
spinning ball
explain
religion?
my point, or
No, we want scientific evidence for your spinning ball religion.
scientific evidence? Is this the whole hypothesis thing again, or
Yeah, that scientific method thing.
with the independent variable, which could be an attributed one, which you can't change?
Attributed could be an attributed one. What the heck
Yeah.
does that mean?
We talked about it in the comments. Anyway,
We talked about it. Anyway, let's get to the scientific method.
No, let's get to my point, right? My point
You
is...
don't have a point. You had no claims.
Let him speak. Let the man speak.
Yeah, let me speak.
For what?
First of all, right? You should be able to see the disconnect between if they were like having this... There was this giant conspiracy, right? That thousands of people know that the Earth is flat, yet they're hiding it from everybody. Yet they're stupid enough to put it in a document that everybody
cares. You're
like
trying to divine the motives of complete strangers. What are you?
But it doesn't make sense logically, right?
Are you Mystic Meg? Okay, post a syllogism. You said logically, right? Post a syllogism. So show how it's invalid.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't want to go down that.
You're talking out your butt. You have no idea what you're talking about.
I know what the tactic is. My second point, right?
My tactic is to expose you as a pretender clown, and it's working like to a T.
My second point is that, as we talked about earlier, like you didn't know the maths and how exactly it worked, and I didn't.
Who cares about your maths?
The only difference is, right, that you're so arrogant that you believe you're smarter than
maths
everybody
isn't
else
science.
who works with this for a living, right?
Math
so I don't.
Isn't science.
What are you talking about math? Like, why do you... Doing math is not really difficult.
Math or understanding the technology or knowing exactly how they do the flight plans, all that, none of us know, right? But I trust somebody.
Hold on. I've got to interrupt there. So you just said none of us know. Hold on. Star, you've said none of us. Hold on, guys. You said none of us know. We've had Alan take us to a crappy website, and you've told us to look at Wolfie's website on YouTube.
I haven't taken to any website. I've told you to look at Wolfie's video.
Right, that's precisely what I just said. You've told us to go and look at Wolfie's website on YouTube. That's exactly what I just said. So yeah, we have taken you to the FAA documents that explain how flights actually work. So what is your response to that?
My response is that in order for me to comment on it, I would have to read everything. And I would have to understand.
You don't need to. You just need to give a comment on the fact that it says that they are referencing a flat plane when you and Alan asserted that it's being done spherically, and the FAA says otherwise. I'd like to know your reaction.
I would have to read it in context and know exactly what they mean and how they determine the things they do.
Well, I encourage you to do that.
Yeah,
I think you should really take the time to do that.
Trust me, this
surprise you.
Yeah, but I like to if I have to discuss something specific that I'm not an expert in, I generally like to at least learn somewhat or read through it. So
then why come on here and claim something that you haven't researched?
But you're the one who's claiming something.
You just took somebody's word for it, right?
Yeah, but
you couldn't open a paper bag without assistance. And you make that as a claim.
That somebody's saying something about page 35.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, but again,
all the military maps are flat maps, right?
The difference here is that we have done the research, right?
But you haven't done the research, right? You've just seen videos. You've.
No, I've done.
What do you have? Special mind powers or something?
I've listened to what we've done for a long time. I know exactly what goes on.
Oh, you do, right?
Yeah.
Well, what's my favorite color?
No clue.
Right, boy, your powers aren't too strong. What did I have for breakfast this morning?
I'm not a psychic, but I can easily spot what's going on. You know?
Yeah, we can easily spot pretender clowns.
What is a pretender clown?
And you're one. Well, they act like they know things.
I've specifically said that
like
we both don't know it. We should.
Well, I do know it. I just told you all military maps are based on flat maps.
What does that mean?
I think he's just embarrassed. That's all. I think he's just embarrassed. He's been proven wrong.
But yeah, we've got back to the beginning. It's good that it's raised a laugh, but it's good that we've got back to the beginning. We can summarise, so we can summarise this nice and easily. The whole point of this conversation is that you are asserting that they map this stuff on spheres, and they do not map it on spheres. They map it flat.
Yeah, of course they map it flat.
So we proved they map it flat. That was the contentious point, right?
Right.
No, you're talking about the flight plans, right?
Yeah.
No, you said that you couldn't, like when you had to make a flight plan, you couldn't. have the presupposition that the Earth was round, right?
No,
You
I
can
said
have any
that they mapped it
presupposition you
flat.
like. You can
Turns out
insert a
that-
presupposition into how they plan it if you want to. That's up to you, my friend. Belief is everything.
Yeah, but again, as I said, none of us are experts about this. So why not consult somebody who is?
How do you know?
If it was a globe, wouldn't they just map it on a
Sorry,
globe?
did you just say none of us are experts when we've just had FAA documents up? They're not experts, you say?
Yeah, but again, we haven't read it through, and you can't explain to me the technology, right? So you're not an expert.
The technology of what?
I'll explain it. Yeah, planes fly, and they fly on a plane. The plane being Earth, and it's flat. It's fairly straightforward to understand. They fly on flat planes. There you go. How's that? Good enough explanation?
If it's that simple, why you're not a pilot then?
What a silly question.
They fly flat and level. So
I actually
going back to my original point again, right? Instead of going around circles, is why not talk to somebody who's an expert? Because you wouldn't believe the person anyway, right?
Well, we just looked at the FAA documents. They're going on a flat world. Black and white.
My grandfather was a pilot. My stepdad's a pilot. I've talked to several pilots.
What kind of pilot?
Well, there was an aviation pilot on Goldbusters that she was a 747, 757 pilot. She spoke out and got grounded. I don't know what more evidence you'd need to see why speaking to pilots officially is really not going to help anybody, because look at what happens when they do.
What do you mean? What kind of
I haven't heard about that exact
only one kind of pilot. Like,
you remember the woman's name?
Wow.
I don't remember. I know what you're talking about, Anthony, but I can't remember her name at all.
She's got something like a name, something like Dribblethwaite or something like that. It's a really unusual name, but
you know, the thing is,
I'll find out.
These FAA I mean, like, if you're going to come here and make this argument, you really should have read these FAA documents, right?
No, because my argument was that you should take it up with somebody who's actually a pilot. Right?
No, that wasn't your initial. That's your fallback position, not your original argument.
No, that was my initial argument.
No, it wasn't. It totally wasn't.
Yes, it was. And then my other argument was.
So your argument is just whatever the authorities say. So you just come here to debate that we should listen to the authorities no matter what.
No, I'm just saying
he's a parroter.
Yeah, so he's saying we should just ask the authorities, and if they say it's round, then it's round, and if it's flat,
you should always be critical. You should always be critical. But sometimes it's smart to converse or to talk to somebody who's an expert on a subject. Like if I want to know medicine, I go to a doctor, right?
Go get one.
What we did is we went to the highest. We found the highest authority.
Because I could go to a website and read something about medicine, but that wouldn't make me a doctor, right?
Let's get on a subject. What's your scientific evidence for your spinning ball religion? Come on.
Yeah, I've seen this. I've seen this the other days as well. This whole hypothesis thing, like the guy did the other day.
The scientific method thing. Yeah.
The scientific method. That's fine, but science is more than just hypothesis. First of all, but that's.
Oh,
fine.
really?
Yeah.
What is it then? You tell us.
It's the body of the evidence and the observations and everything. Obviously, a hypothesis is a higher form of science, or at least it's better evidence. But again, several hypotheses, then it becomes a theory, then it's even more solid. But nothing is.
Well, you said we don't need hypotheses.
Way of viewing the world, right? It's our best way of viewing the world.
What?
What is that? How does that? Are you counter? Yeah, I don't know what he's trying to say.
My point is that science is more than an hypothesis. That's my point.
Okay, what else is it?
It's evidence, it's facts, it's observations, it's deductive reasoning, it's logic, it's a lot of things.
Well, hey guys, I'm looking at something. It's pretty interesting.
That's why the whole hypothesis thing is kind of nuts when quantum erasure goes on. Yeah, I mean, when quantum erasure, the whole hypothesis thing.
That's me.
The guy made a solid hypothesis, and you with your alternative.
No. I made his alternative hypothesis
because
from
he
his
didn't know the alternative hypothesis was the same as the regular hypothesis.
Yeah, you're saying the alternative hypothesis and the null are the same? Are you insane?
No, the null and alternative is not the same, but the hypothesis and alternative hypothesis in this example is the same, yes.
The alternative hypothesis is the hypothesis. He didn't have one.
Yo, he had one.
I deduced it from his null hypothesis.
No. You just
Yeah. I did it on screen. Go watch.
And also the whole thing Nathan has been saying with the cause and effect thing. The whole point about a hypothesis is, right, you have the independent variable and the dependent variable, and then from that you use your deductive reasoning to make a logical conclusion.
No, it's not deductive reasoning.
What the hell
show
did
the
you just say?
deductive reasoning for the double slit experiment.
You don't use
but
deductive
that's
reasoning.
different, right?
No, it's not different. That's
Give
a
me the
double slit
hypothesis and
experiment.
independent
Let's hear
variable.
the deduction. And you said, hey, Nathan, share my screen again. Let's really expose this clown. Tell me when you're seeing this.
Systematic experimentation. Not deductive reasoning.
All right, that text, from Sean.
I know you take
Okay, can you shut him up?
Find every little block, or sometimes it's
Can you shut him up?
Sometimes it's block, and you take everything out of context.
Let's take a look at this. California Institute of Technology physicist Sean Carroll arguing in the Edge that hypotheses aren't simply useful tools in some potential outmoded vision of science. They are the whole point. My word, sir. So what are you talking about? I mean, you come on here clowning and say hypotheses that's just a small part of science. It's the whole point. What do you think? I took this out of context? My word, you're a clown. So let's get up with your scientific evidence.
The whole scientific method thing. It's like, it's all well and good to assert that the whole body of science is behind you until you actually get down to the nitty gritty of using science. Then they don't like it.
Let's go. What's the scientific evidence for a spinning ball religion? Let's take a look at this too. This is very interesting. A common mistakes in applying the scientific method. This is from the University of Rochester Physics Department. As stated earlier, the scientific method attempts to minimize the influence of the scientist's bias on the outcome of an experiment. That is, when testing a hypothesis or a theory, the scientist may have a preference for one outcome or another, and it is important that this preference not bias the result or their interpretation. The most fundamental error is to mistake the hypothesis for an explanation of a phenomenon without performing experimental tests. Sometimes common sense and logic tempt us into believing that no test is needed. There are numerous examples of this dating from the Greek philosophers to the present day. So, what we need is, following the scientific method, the hypothesis, alternative hypothesis, the independent dependent variable, the null hypothesis, and we need the experiment. Is there any questions about this? Let's get to it. Phenomena observed, please.
You're on mute, Star.
So, and this is cool, when people try to provide explanations, when they say, well, I'll give you an explanation, we don't care about your explanation, just so story. Now, if your explanation is accompanied by experiment, then we're going to listen to you. If not, don't come on. Or do come on and make a horse's ass out of yourself. No problem. I got time. So, natural phenomena observed.
I don't think he's not gonna do this, but it is just interesting that the FAA's map is that they use a flat map to plan flights, right? It's the only way it will work.
And all military maps are flat maps.
Funny that.
Here we go, right here. Funny, I got it right here.
Okay, can you hear me?
Oh, okay, you're back? Yeah, we got you.
Sorry, no swearing. I was muted.
Yeah, by me, because you kept talking.
Oh, fair enough. So, okay, that's why.
All right, let's go.
First of all, right, did you hear what I was saying when you were explaining the hypothesis part?
No, because you were muted, so...
Yeah,
That's
I
why
don't know for how long. So
you didn't talk over everybody.
Quantum Eraser didn't stop talking, did he?
No, because you were muted.
Can I, for one moment, intervene? Because I'm looking at the paper. People in chat are constantly spamming. Oh, look at page 35, where it is said that apparently the National Imagery and Mapping Agency does apply a globe Earth model.
Nice.
Yeah, but it's
Thanks, Owen.
yeah, but that's not actually. Yeah, that's the mapping agency. But
So-
earlier, much earlier, and I actually highlighted that for a moment. In page 32, was it? Wait, let me find it again. Yeah, it's very interesting what they're saying right here, because they're saying the observant reader will notice that the aircraft equations of motion were calculated assuming a flat Earth, and that we here assume the development frame was the northeast down frame. This implies necessarily the Earth rotation and variation of the gravity factor with position over the Earth were ignored in developing the aircraft equations of motion. This simplification limits our mathematical model of the flight of aircraft only. The model will not properly handle the flights of suborbital craft and spacecraft such as intercontinental ballistic missiles, satellites, and space shuttle. The model is adequate for vehicles traveling under Mach 3.
Okay, yeah.
Here's the funny part. For trajectory propagation, since we cannot assume a flat Earth, okay, the original initial reference frame, blah, 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 it gets into modified for the elliptic Earth. And then it just goes on in mathematics in how to basically modify it all to make it work on a globe.
See, so what was your point before?
The point, this is the exact quote that I had read earlier. And that
Yeah, you took it out of context, right? As I said, right?
That I what?
You took it out of context, as I said,
No,
right?
I didn't take it out of context. I'm saying that what's important about what this says here is that the aircraft equations of motion are calculated assuming a flat Earth. Okay, I want to just. What do you think
it's all designed to fit that, but then it's just
hold
you
on.
cannot assume a flat Earth.
Hold on a second. He said that Nami took it out of context. Wouldn't you have to have read it first, star, to know that he did take it out of context?
I guess that I was pretty spot on, right?
I mean, it's ridiculous. You just pop up these terms, you just parrot them like they have some type of validity. You haven't even read the document, and you're telling him that he's taking it out of context.
Yeah.
You got
And I was
special
right.
Evo mind powers or something?
Wasn't I right? Didn't Aaron just prove that?
No, sorry. I want to ask you something. Hey,
My word, sir.
Let me ask you a question. Okay. What do you? If I'm taking it out of context, what is the context of this statement? Okay.
Okay, let me explain to
The
you.
equations of the aircraft equations of motion were calculated assuming a flat Earth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me explain to you.
What's the real context? You explain how the real
context, right? The example of you taking it out of context is doing exactly what you just did, right? Because you pick the part where it says, assuming the flat Earth, they've made these models for this for the motions of the flight, right? And then immediately after they say, but this is a simplification because it makes the math easier. And when you have to travel in the real world and you have to take into account the rotation of the Earth and that it's a sphere. So they're just saying they're assuming the Earth is flat to make the math easier. And then they're saying, but in reality, the Earth is a sphere. And
no, that's not what
and the Earth is spinning. And the Earth is spinning, right?
That's exactly what they're saying. You might not agree.
Limit our mathematical model to the flights of aircraft only, and then they say if you want to make it work on the globe,
yeah, exactly. So they
space
say they're the globe, right?
Who cares? They're just saying. They're just saying. Let's start showing. Hey Nathan, am I still screen sharing?
Yeah, you can be.
So they
I still want an answer as to what you think the aircraft equations of motion were calculated assuming a flat Earth. Okay, so if we can calculate the equations of motion using a flat Earth, so what you're saying is that's somehow a simplification of doing it on a spherical Earth. So if
that's exactly what they said. I don't know how they do it.
No, we take the flat Earth and we calculate the equations of motion, and somehow that simplifies the problem of calculating the equations of motion on a spherical Earth.
That's what they're saying here. That's
right,
what
it's
it says.
moronic.
No, that's
So-
not what they're saying.
What are you talking about, man? Like, you think, okay,
What
you
they're simply claiming is that if you want to assume the workings of satellites and space shuttles.
No, they're not saying assume. They mentioned assume with the flat Earth part. They didn't mention assume with the other part, right? Because they know that the Earth is round.
Yeah, they know it's round.
You just said
well,
that
let's
if
show
everybody
us.
knew it would be right?
No, they don't do that.
Well, hold on. He's going to
They
show us.
cannot assume the Earth.
Arwen.
Assume a flat Earth.
Arwen.
Quantum Eraser wants me to make an
Let
hypothesis.
him show us. We're tired of listening to people
Okay.
telling us.
You know
Show
what? How
us.
about you make an hypothesis for the flat Earth? Several people has come in here, tried to make an
So
hypothesis.
I just made a question. I just offered you for you to provide scientific evidence for your spinning ball religion. I have never said, not once, that I have scientific evidence of a flat Earth. Not
So why
once.
should we believe it then?
Not once.
Why should we
All,
believe
I've,
the Earth is flat
all
then?
I've been told is I'm a science denier. I have to deny all of physics to be a flat earther. Ergo, you have all this scientific evidence of a spinning ball Earth. I never made the claim. You guys have made the claim. Now we're putting your feet to the fire.
Yeah, but
and
you've
we
made
want
the
you to
claim that it's
provide
not true, right? You've made
scientific
the claim that
evidence
you're
for
flat,
your
right?
spinning ball religion.
Do you believe the Earth is flat?
I don't believe it's flat. I know it's flat.
You know it's flat. Can you prove
That's
it?
right. I did a video about, I don't know, Nathan, what was it, 6 weeks ago? With
Yeah,
4
about that.
proofs. So go back there and take a look at it.
So give me
Now
an
we're on to
hypothesis.
you.
Give me an hypothesis. Go for
Now
it.
we're on to
Go
you.
for it
No,
now.
no. We're not switching the goalposts.
Do you
Give
seriously
us
think I'm going- I'm
scientific
stupid enough
evidence
to do this
of
shit
your
with you?
spinning ball religion. Go.
Do you seriously think I'm going to go through these hoops with you?
Well, you can't because first you don't know what the scientific method is.
I know what it is.
That's
yes.
the biggest reason. You
If
just
I
said
wasn't you, I would've
hypotheses.
told you while,
You just told us that hypotheses were not that really important.
That's not what I
in
said.
Science.
That's not
So
what I said.
did you
I
say?
said they're the highest quality of evidence beneath a theory, but they're still not all of science. That's what I said.
Beneath the theory.
Yeah, you know several hypotheses, then you can create a theory, right?
That's correct.
Can you
You
define?
need hypotheses.
No,
Yeah.
Can you just define science, please?
Yeah, as I said, like science is more than hypotheses. Hypotheses are definitely high quality, but science is more than that.
No, but
Science
don't tell us about what it's more than. Tell us what it is. Can you just
I'll
define?
explain it. Science is both observations and evidence and, as I said, deductive reasoning, logic, and hypothesis, facts. It's a lot of things.
You're just making stuff up. Look at this. Look at this.
Yeah, but that's
The-
a scientific
the
method.
scientific
It's not
method.
defined
Yeah,
as
that's science. Yeah,
has
yeah,
more than
that's
one.
science.
Yeah, that's what we're talking
Science
about
is
here.
the
Science.
scientific method. The scientific method is hypothesis driven.
Yeah,
One
it's
makes an
hypothesis-driven,
educating.
that's true.
Yeah, exactly. You're saying yeah, exactly.
But it's not.
Yeah,
That's not the only thing of it. And science is more than just a scientific method.
The scientific method requires that a hypothesis be ruled out or modified if its predictions are clearly and repeatedly incompatible with experimental tests.
I can find a definition for you.
I already got one right here from the
Yeah, but I
physics
can
department
find
at
one from the
University of
Science Council.
Rochester.
I can find one from the Science Council.
From the
I posted
Science
it to you the
Council.
other day.
Okay, let's see. Let's hear it. Where's the
I'll
Science
post it,
Council at? Romper room?
I'll post it here, but I can find others as well.
What science council are you talking to? The National Science Foundation or something like that?
No, it's
Romper room.
I posted it here. Do you want me to read it?
Sure.
Science is the pursuit and application of knowledge and understanding of the natural and social world following a systematic methodology
Social world, really?
based
Wrong.
on evidence. Scientific
Wrong.
methodology includes the following: objective observations, measurement and data, evidence, experiments and/or observations as benchmarks for testing hypotheses, induction
wrong.
reasoning, repetition, critical analysis, verification, and testing. Right?
Sure. No, wrong. You had sociology in there. That's wrong.
I gave you the link already. You can just.
I don't care what your link
I
said.
didn't have sociology in there.
Yeah. Yeah, you did.
Where was it a link from? Where was the reference
Yeah,
from?
where's that from?
It's the Science Council. I'm not exactly sure what their members are, where they're registered, but I can find others as well, more government official ones.
Why is their title, if it is Science Council, why is it a contradiction? You don't have councils of science.
Well, they've made one, obviously.
Oh well, they must be right then.
No, I'm just saying that the definition you're using, that science is more, you can find this other places as well.
Yeah, like physics departments and stuff, right?
Who is the Science Council, anyways? Is it just some website? Like, why do we have to take?
Yeah, of course, we'd have to like look at the how legit they are and all that, right?
No,
I can go through it. I can find more official
like,
ones.
It's a self-serving definition, where they're trying to include all of these pseudosciences under the
That's
auspices.
really wrong, right? Because science, in its essence, is a way of understanding the world, right? So how we define science is something that's evolved over the years, and the hypothesis is an very important part of science. Like we couldn't. It's the best.
It's critically important.
Yeah,
I just showed you that.
It's very important. But
it's
not
the whole point, according to Sean Carroll.
Yeah.
Physicist God. He just told you it was the whole point.
Again,
what don't you understand about that?
Small citation out of context. I'm sure I could find him.
How do you know it's out of context? You didn't read it. Unbelievable. We got Mr. Meg on the panel.
Everything that doesn't support the globe view is out of context, right?
How can that be out of context?
I'm just saying, right, that science is more than hypotheses.
Get out of here. Go.
And if we really
go back to your cake decorating threads,
it's
man.
more than hypotheses, but testing hypotheses.
Right? Yeah, and it's evidence, and it's data, and it's analysis.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, those are products of your hypothesis testing.
Right.
And if it's not serving the hypothesis testing, then it's not science, right? And really, what defines it as science is the hypothesis testing, not all the peripherals.
But that's not necessarily true, though.
Yeah, it's true.
No,
we just showed you that in spades.
Well, that's like
with something else.
Like there's that numbers are science because you use numbers to describe your hypothesis, aspects of your hypothesis. But no, numbers aren't science. The hypothesis is the science. It utilizes other various tools of language and concepts in order to achieve its goals. But those things that it utilizes do not become science, right?
Like I kind of see your point, but again, it depends on in which context they're used, right? Something can become a part of science, like the body of science. It could become a part of it.
There is no body. Show us the body. Wait a second. Let him share his screen. We want to see the body of science.
I don't know how to share screen, but I gave you the link, right?
No, we want to see a picture of the body of science.
Very funny.
Let's just have a real practical discussion here about this, okay? What do you?
A clown?
No. Well, this is for the audience sake. I'm just saying. What do you mean when you say the body of science? Can you just explain?
What I mean is, I just kind of read the definition, right? I could just kind of explain it. Like, also the whole hypothesis part of it.
You said that's what science is. Now you're. So why? Okay, so science is the body of science. So
yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, it's just like
that's not circular.
Like
can I just ask you why you're using the word body? Like, I'm just genuinely curious about, like, because these terms get thrown around and they're never really exact. They kind of require a different definition for each person, it seems. But I mean,
fair enough. But I just mean what science is. Really. It's the sum of the parts.
What?
I just mean really what science is. Like, it's a sum of a lot of parts.
Hey, I'm looking through this paper very elaborately, and basically what I can conclude from is that for the actual engineering part, they basically use flat dynamics because there is no reference of any dip angle.
Yeah,
it's all very based on flat mathematics.
We're still talking about
it's very oversimple. It's very simple. Like the first part where they actually do not start yapping on and shoving calculations in your face about the globe. It's all very straightforward. It's actual engineering stuff. So and then when they actually start referencing the globe, It's all transformative math. It's all based purely theoretically on transforming coordinate systems.
How is it theoretical if they use it in
into
practice?
spherical geometry. That is what it does. That is what I'm seeing right here.
Wait, I just want to add one more point to what we were previously saying, because I think this conversation about how we define science and the body of science and all that is pretty important. But I think that, really we should be the best way to define science is on its goals, on what it's seeking to achieve, right? Because then all these other peripherals that end up being utilized by science, we won't get mixed up as to whether they are science or not. So science is a pursuit.
Yeah, but if we agree on that, then quantum erasure can't keep mentioning the hypothesis stuff. You know that, right?
What?
No, we could say I think that the goal of science, the goal of science is to acquire an understanding of cause and effect relationships through the use of hypothesis testing.
Cause and effect relationships is a part of it, yes, but it's just understanding the natural world. That's what science is, right?
Yeah, well, that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, but the goal is to not just understand the natural world, it's to do it methodically.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Description of the method that you use, the methodical approach, is what is defined as science. Because if it was just about understanding the world, that you could say there's lots of things that are trying to do that as well, things like philosophy or religion, but those are not scientific because they're not.
Yeah, but that's why you say natural world, right? That's kind of part of the
natural philosophy is also trying to understand the natural world, but what defines science is that it's a methodical approach that tries.
I get what your point is. Yeah, I don't disagree.
Okay, so then this kind of clarifies what you're talking about earlier, that there is no, but exactly why there is no body of science, right? Science is a pursuit with a
but you just said that it's, besides being a pursuit, it's like a specific way of getting to that goal, right?
Yep.
So you have to have like certain methods of getting there.
Yeah, the scientific method. That's right.
And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. And of course, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and for sharing this debate. If you've not done so already, be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.